Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is the next video in the Excel automation scenario series. In this series, we are looking at the real-time Excel scenarios that we faced during the automation, and we'll try to see how we can resolve them in UiPath Studio. Let's see the agenda for this video. Today we are going to see how we can write, edit and debug a VBA in Excel. Post that, we'll see how we can use the Invoke VBA activity in UiPath Studio. After that, we will see how we can refresh the pivots with the help of VBA code. So this is the second video. In the first video, we have seen how we can refresh the pivots with the help of send hotkey and UI automation. And all of this we are going to see with the help of our demonstration. To start with the automation, I have an Excel sheet with me which I called sample excel file.xlsx. I have a data which is available in sheet 2. The data is related to some of the products, and I have 3 pivots, pivot 1, 2 and 3. So the pivot names are, if I go to analyze, pivot 5, pivot 6 and pivot 7. The objective here is to refresh the pivots whenever a new data is added into the source data. So assuming that I add a new data here, I'll just add this ABC. I'll type here May. I'll write a value of 1000 here and maybe 400 here maybe. Yeah. And now what happened is, see, if you'll see, we don't have the ABC in the product list and we don't have the May month here. We have March and we directly have June. Okay, so as of now you will see there is no data available because I haven't refreshed the pivot. So if I go to the data and I hit on refresh all, so I got this data here, right, May, and I got ABC. So in the previous video of this series, what I have explained is how we can refresh pivots with the help of refresh pivots activity and with the help of UI automation and the send hotkey as well. This video is dedicated to how we can refresh the same pivot with the help of Invoke VBA. So if you haven't watched this video, I'll put the link in the description and you can follow the link. Okay, so this video we are talking about an activity which I called Invoke VBA. So I just hit Ctrl+Z and the changes were gone. Okay, let's save everything. I hit refresh all and the data is available again. Okay, I'll save this. Okay, so now the next activity we are going to talk today is the Invoke VBA. So before that, first thing first, let's go to the main. So I have a sample Excel file, sample excel.xlsx, and Excel is pointing, Excel application scope is pointing to this Excel. Okay, so the activity which we are talking today is Invoke VBA. So I go to activities, I type here Invoke VBA. Okay, and this is the Invoke VBA in our Excel processing and Invoke VBA. So Invoke VBA, if I just talk about this activity is responsible for executing a VBA code that is placed outside the Excel application scope. So you can think of the scenario that I have a VB code which I want to execute here. As of now in this tutorial we are going to see how we can refresh pivots, but in real world scenario this can be a complex business logic where the VBA file is kept in a different location. So one benefit of keeping the VBA file at different location is that in future if we require any code changes, we can just make the changes to the VBA files and the Excel and this process will accommodate it accordingly. Okay, let's go to the properties of Invoke VBA, and what do we see? We have the code file path here. So this means that where exactly the VBA file is placed and what is the entry method name, and let's talk about this a little bit later. Before that, let's try to write an simple VBA or macro in the Excel. So as of now the objective here is to refresh the pivot, so I'll just update this to XYZ. Okay, I save it and you will see I still see ABC here, right? So let's do one thing, I'll just delete this guy. Okay, and I save. Now you will see the ABC record is still available here and the May record is still available here. That is not being omitted from the pivots because I have not hit a refresh all. Okay, let's see how we can do with the help of the script first in Excel. So we go here and we press Alt F11. That will open this wizard for the Microsoft Visual Basic. Okay, so what we want to do, we want to refresh all. So I'll close this one. This was from an existing. Close this and let me just go Alt function F11. Okay, so where exactly we want to write the Visual Basic code? We want to write in sheet 2. I double click on sheet 2. So I have already written this code here. I'll just delete and we'll start from scratch. So this is the window which we will see in the beginning. What we want to do, we want to write a code in this worksheet. And what is the selection? So let's say I want to deactivate change. So if I want to write a code wherever there is some change, I can just take this activity and Excel will create a block for me. But as of now, what I wanted to do is I want to create a function which will be invoked by the which will be invoked by the UiPath Studio. So I'll just remove this existing one block. I'll just change the name to our name. So I will just rename it to, let's say, refresh all pivots. So I am creating my own method. I am not relying on the Excel by default method. And as of now, we don't have any target, right? So objective here is we want to refresh all the targets. Okay, so I will just remove this, and this is a direct method which we can invoke. Okay, and the code to refresh is, so if I just press Ctrl plus space, so this workbook, and if I hit a dot, I see refresh all. Okay, so that is all. So this code is responsible for refreshing all the pivots which are available, and not only the pivots, all the data sources which are available in the Excel sheet. So let's test this workflow. So I go here, I go to debug, and I put a breakpoint. So this is the same like a breakpoint in any of the programming language which we put. Okay, so let's go ahead and run the file. Okay, so the debugger is still in the entry of the block, and if I go to the sample Excel, we still see the ABC here, right? It has not refreshed the pivot. Okay, let's go and execute the statement. I go here and I type step into. Now this is executing. Once I will hit on F step into, this block executed. Let's go back to the Excel, and we see the ABC record is now lost from this one. Okay, so that means that this script is working fine. Okay, I'll hit continue. Okay, so this script is working. Now the next step for us is how we can invoke this script with the help of UiPath Studio. So I will just remove the debugger from here. Okay, so this is just a simple example. In the real world scenario, this can be a more complex step where you can do the experiments with all the different options available here. You can write your own VB script and lot of stuffs we can do, right? So this is a powerful thing. So let's see how we can invoke this thing in a UiPath Studio. Okay, so I'll take this, I'll copy, and I'll go to UiPath Studio. Okay, I have already created a file called VB file. Let's create one more. So I go to Notepad, I'll paste this. Okay, and next thing is we have to save this file. Okay, and I will save it in the project path so it is directly accessible. UiPath, the process name is Excel Automation. Okay, I'll save it here with the, let's say, script.vb. Okay, that is the extension, and save. Close this, go to the project, refresh, and now you will see I have script.vb available here. Okay, so now let's try to invoke the VBA file here. So what I do is I go here and I have to just pass the file name. So okay, so it's stored as .vba.text, so that is, we don't require that one. I go back to the project folder. Okay, and I will just rename and remove this guy from here. Yes, I want to change it, and now it's script.vb. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we have to pass the source code path. Okay, so I'll go here and I'll pass this path here. So now it has not taken the path because it is available at the project location. Next, the invoke VBA. If I go to the properties, it asks me for the entry method name. So if we remember our script, so the entry method name for us was this guy. Okay, so we'll copy this, go back to your UiPath Studio. Now the entry method, instead of main, it would be refresh all pivots. Hit OK, and if you'll see, we don't have any parameters. So had we have provided some of the parameters in this guy, then we can pass the same parameters in UiPath Studio. So as of now, we don't have any parameters here. Okay, So I'll close this. Okay, let's save this Excel. We go back to UiPath Studio and properties. We don't have any entry methods and we don't expect any output, right? Because it is just a refresh of the pivots. Okay, so if this is executed, what I want to do is I want to have a write line, and the write line should say refresh pivot was successful. Okay, so if this line is printed, that means that we are done. Okay, so let's see before we execute what changes we require. So if I go to UiPath official documentation, so this is the setting which we have to enable to use the Invoke VBA. And some things to consider: this can be used inside an Excel application scope with the file the XLS and XLSX. So let's just verify this setting if it is enabled or not. So we have to go to file, options, trust center settings, and macros, I guess, and this. Okay, so we have to select the trust access for the VBA project inside the trust setting. Okay, so I go here. So this is the setting which is required to run this activity. Okay, so I click here and hit OK. And now we are all good. Okay, now let's go ahead and do some of the changes in the file. So we don't have this here. Okay, let's add some data here: ABC, DEF, and XYZ. Okay, I'll add some months here in the caps: May, June, and July maybe. Okay, and I'll just drag the rates here like this, and similarly for this guy also. Okay, so now I have added some more data. So ABCDF are not available here, and the months also are added: March, April, May, June. Okay, I have added. Okay, I have March. I don't have April, May, and June. So I will just add here, let's say April and May, and let this be July. Okay, so what would happen is when we refresh the what would happen when we go to UiPath Studio and execute this process, we should get ABCDEF XYZ in this pivot, these months in this pivot, and some changes based on the pivots in the grand total. Okay, let's save this. And what we have done is, once this automation is executed successfully, we have a write line. This Excel will read by the Excel application scope. We have Invoke VBA that will invoke the script which is placed at the project location. This will call this method and refresh all the pivots. And once the pivots are successfully refreshed, we should get a write line that refresh pivot is successful. Okay, and what would happen in the Excel? These three records will be printed here. April, May, June, July months will be available here, and based on this date, this grand total should change a little bit. Okay, let's go back to UiPath Studio and try to run the process. I go here and run the file. Okay, so execution is completed. If I go to the output, I see refresh pivot successful is printed in the log. That means this activity was executed successfully. Let's go back to the Excel and we see these three items are now available here, right? And May and April are also available, and this, I think based on this date, something would have changed here. Okay, so basically the pivots are refreshed. And how we can make sure? Because these items are available here. Now let us see what is the benefit which we get by using the VBA code. Now assuming that this automation is already deployed and running in production, and now we have to do some of the changes in the VBA script. So for that, as we know that the VBA script is placed outside this and it is not a part of this solution. So as of now, this is available in the project location. This could be anywhere in the shared location, and the path can be available here. Now if you make changes to the VBA script, the changes will be reflected here. So now let's do one thing. Let's go ahead and do some changes in the VBA script and see whether the VBA file is able to accommodate that or not. Okay, so I go to the project. Okay, I'll just open this location, open project folder. This is the VBA script, and I go here and edit with Notepad++. Now as of now we were just refreshing the pivots. Let's try to add a message box. So to add the message box, we type msg box and we have to just type the message. So I'll just type a message, let's say please subscribe to the channel. Okay, so I will just save this VBA script. So now what would happen is whenever the script is running, it will refresh all the pivots and then a message box will be printed in the Excel. So this way we can test the editing of the script as well. I minimize this guy. We go back to the Excel. Now ABCDF are available here. We just delete this, save everything, and I have not placed the refreshed. Now we go back to UiPath Studio. So now what we have done is we have submitted the changes to the script.vb. We are now telling the VB script to refresh the pivots, and after the pivots are refreshed, you just print a message which says please subscribe to the channel. Okay, and after that a right line will be printed here. Okay, I'll just delete everything, save, and let's run the automation. I go here and run the file. Okay, it is executing the process. Okay, I think we have put a message box. Okay, so you will see here the pivots are refreshed, the data is lost here, and the Excel is stuck at the message box which says please subscribe to the channel. If I hit OK, the processing is completed. I go to the output and I see the refresh pivot successful was printed. So that is how we can edit a VBA script which is already a part of automation. So that was how we can use the Invoke VBA activity. In this video we have seen how we can refresh the pivots with the help of Invoke VBA. We have also seen how we can edit an existing script in the VB, and we have seen that how we can debug the scripts in the Excel. Okay, so that was all about this video. If you want to know more about the Invoke VBA, we can always go back to docs.uipath.com and read the official documentation here. Okay, so if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel, and happy automation.